Hello, Homestead. This is Greg Gilio, principal of Homestead High School, and today is the weekly video message for Friday, September 3rd. I was going to have Mr. Brian Dong as my guest star. He is our activities and athletics assistant principal, and he's also our COVID designee, and he's the one who handles a lot of the issues whenever there is a positive case. And as we sat down to record this, a positive case popped up, and so he is off dealing with that right now. So I'm going to save him for another time. And I'm going to jump straight into the questions and all that because we have a lot to go over again. Still a bunch of questions coming through, so I appreciate all that. But we're going to just skip our guest star and move on to the rest of the show here. Are some shout outs and recognitions that were mentioned this week. So a quote: "The whole staff has been super," according to this person. So thank you for that. I'm really glad to hear that. Also a person wanted to shout out to the people involved in preparing lunch for our students. That would be our food services workers, led by Miss Terry Fortson. And she has a crew of about 5 or 6 that are there that work with her. And then monitoring the lunch lines. That's myself and the admin team. We've been trying to do that. So we seem to be doing pretty well with that. I'll talk a little bit more about the lines down the road here, but thank you for that recognition. There was also a shout out for one of our deans, Maria Trejo, because she was supportive to a new family that arrived here at Homestead and needed some support. And then someone threw out a big, nice thank you recognition to the PTSA, who are a bunch of volunteers who are often in thankless roles, spending their time trying to make things better for the staff and students. They do a lot of things around here. They definitely help us out at times when we need some people to hand out schedules or to just do different things. They also support us and do lots of staff social things. So it's really nice. So I appreciate that. And they also do lots of grants and whatnot for the teachers so that we can provide more materials or better materials or different kinds of things for our students. So yeah, they definitely deserve a shout out. This person also wanted to say they've seen some people treating them harshly, not thinking that they were volunteers. I would hope that nobody's treating any of the staff or PTSA in a harsh manner. You know, sometimes things can get a little stressful, and so we're here to help each other. So again, if you could just have some patience and ask some questions, and we'll definitely try and get you to the right person. And do know that sometimes we have volunteers out, especially at events, who are helping. So they may not be a staff member who may have all the answers. So please, again, be respectful to those adults you see on campus. So, but shout outs to the staff, the lunch folks, Maria Trejo, and our PTSA this week. And coming up with some questions and concerns. I quoted this whole one here because it kind of had an overarching thing, so I wanted to kind of capture the whole thing. So I'm concerned about the seemingly narrow contact tracing being done. I am worried because my daughter was not in class with a positive COVID student teacher, but is in classes with students that are. She is technically being exposed, possibly by 6, as this is how many classes she has been in. So to be very clear, yes, your student may have been in contact with someone who's being considered to be a close contact, but that is not a definition of a close contact. So a close contact is someone who was within 6 feet of a positive individual for 15 or more minutes. Now, we don't really even do the 6-foot thing when we have a closed classroom for 90 minutes and students are in there. We consider everybody in that room to be a close contact. Now, if a student walks in, delivers a pass, and walks out, that is not a close contact. But if let's say another adult comes in and is helping students and they're there for 20, 30 minutes, that is considered a close contact. So being a close contact of a close contact is not a reason to quarantine. That's kind of several degrees of separation. So need to make sure that we understand it. So it is a close circle within the people who are testing positive, the classes they've been in, the people they have lunch with, the people they are in with the tutorial, if they go to practices or or club events or club meetings, if they are with other adults, if they come into the office and sit in there for a while, right? So there's definitely those things that we look at, but we don't look at everybody, because if we did that, we basically would be shutting down the entire school with one positive case. So that is not what is considered a close contact. And so now, if let's say, your student was a close contact of a close contact. Well, if that other close contact becomes positive, then that narrows the degree of separation. And that would be a reason that we would go back and contact you and say, you know what, you were in close contact with this other student, and so therefore, or staff member, and then you would be somebody who would have to quarantine. So again, it's really those that have the 15-minute or more connection to that positive student. So as soon as that positive cases identified, that's when that kind of chart starts. We do go back 48 hours from when students start to feel symptoms. So let's say today's Friday, we get someone who calls in and said, hey, I took a test and I was negative, or I was positive. And I started feeling poorly yesterday. I was at school. Well, we would go back, yesterday being Thursday, we would go to Wednesday and Tuesday of the week and contact all of those students and adults. So we do go back even. So that's also part of the guidelines of how to deal with a positive contact. So again, when we're looking at it, one positive individual could come up to 150 to 200 close contacts. So that is a lot of people that we're looking at. So it is a wide net. We are finding that a lot of our folks are vaccinated. So 85 to 90% of the kids that we seem to be talking to are vaccinated. So that's great. That cuts down on the number of kids who have to quarantine. Because if you are quarantining, if you're vaccinated, you do not have to quarantine. You do have to make sure that you're not having any symptoms. If you are unvaccinated, you will have to quarantine. And so we're finding that's a smaller number of students that are actually having to quarantine. But again, we have testing available and all that kind of thing. So you can double check even if you're vaccinated. And if you're feeling a little bit nervous about that and you're vaccinated, you are also welcome to quarantine, but you're not required to do so. One of the questions was, as cases of the COVID variants continue to rise, is there any indication of school closures in the horizon? We'll be honest, right? That was always our biggest fear or consideration, that like, gee, if we get a whole slew of, or what might be considered an outbreak, do we have to shut down? Do we have to go to remote? Those are things that we definitely have to look at. That has happened to other schools in other parts of the state and country. Hasn't happened here. Again, we're not planning on doing that right now, but if it happens, we're kind of prepared, because that was one of the reasons why we built the schedule the way we did. And just in case we did have to go to remote learning rather quickly, again, we don't want to go to remote learning. I don't think you want to go to remote learning, but if things get really bad, if we start getting a lot of kids or we can't control the variant, that could be something that happens. Now, again, we have had 2 out of 2,500 students at Homestead, or actually two people out of the 2,500 students and staff at Homestead. So that's when you break that down into percentage points, that's 0.0008%. So it is a very, very small percent. So yeah, one is too many, but just know that it's, we're down to a very, very small number. So we do expect numbers to possibly go up, because again, this variant is not under control, and it seems to be still out there. And so we're doing the best we can to cut down on it. And so again, we are looking at that. And I also reference you back to the COVID-19 dashboard that's on our district website. You can go there and see how many students and staff have been tested positive. It is a very small number when you think about there are 10,000 students and over 500 adults. Actually, I think it's closer to 900 adults total in our district. So it is a small number in comparison to that, but there are still a number, and that is concerning. This one is also concerning, so I wanted to put it in there as the whole kind of quote. Sorry, that's why it's a little small, but it says, are you aware that students who have COVID positive family members are still attending school? Their parents are still sending them to school so they don't miss out on learning, because there is no distance learning. Absent students get assignments, but they aren't being taught the lessons. These kids need to keep up their grades in order to get into college. Other parents know this is happening, but don't know what to do. We don't want to start witch hunts. But we also don't want sick kids on our campus. So, we're not aware of this. And again, I hope this is more rumor and urban legend than it is true. But if this is happening, we're not aware, and it is actually absolutely dangerous and very careless. So if your student or someone in your household has a positive test, your student should be home quarantining. So that they don't possibly infect others here. So again, we would ask you to do that. Now, again, they are sort of right here that students who are absent are getting assignments, but there are ways to stay in touch, and teachers are doing things like recording lessons, allowing students to participate in different kinds of ways because of Schoology. So I wouldn't say that if you're just on your own and you're not doing anything. We are trying to build support plans. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit difficult, especially if you start looking at the number of kids that may have to stay home. It isn't very easy, and we aren't going to be able to do remote learning or hybrid learning like we did before. But I would just sort of, kind of point you back to that one sentence that kids need to keep up their grades in order to go to college. Well, you actually need to keep up your health in order to go to college. So I want to make sure that everyone is safe and okay. That's the more important thing. We have plenty of time to help kids make up grades and to do things to make sure they're not losing any learning. but we do have to do what we need to do to keep people safe. So please make sure that you are reporting to us and letting us know, so that we can adjust and deal with that here. So again, if we do find out, if someone tells us something, we are going to go and investigate. We're going to call the family, we're going to ask questions, and we're going to try and do the best we can in terms of investigation. So we hope that people would cooperate with those who are doing the investigation. But we are working with our teachers, our counselors, our therapists, our administrators, support staff. Everyone is helping and trying to provide outside learning opportunities and support. So again, we will do our best that we can to give students a chance to stay, in touch, stay in the loop, and when they come back, how to help them make up some of that work. So it's going to be different for every kid, depending on the types of classes you have. But again, I would just, think of the greater good of the school and the people here. We want to make sure that, no one inadvertently gets somebody sick and they get somebody else sick, and maybe they have some underlying health conditions. That would be really scary. So please make sure that you're reporting those into us so we can help deal with them. On a little bit lighter note, is there going to be a problem this year? And we certainly hope so. But again, we have to be a little bit cautious about what is going to be happening. As we started this year, we definitely are planning on moving forward with all events. However, we have canceled dances for the first semester. We've also canceled overnight or out-of-state field trips for the first semester. Still waiting on second semester though, because things could get better, they could get worse. So we just don't know at this point. But we also may need to look at something to alter those events. Like for instance, the homecoming dances that are getting canceled. We might do something more like a carnival or sort of a movie night or something that might still be a fun social event, but that doesn't require kids to get hot and sweaty and dance near each other in a gym or even outside, right? That doesn't seem like that would be a wise move to do. But again, we need to make sure that we are, following the guidelines, that we're keeping kids safe, and things could change. So again, as of right now, I certainly hope prom goes on. It might look a little bit different if it does, or it may get canceled. We just don't know at this point. And we might need to wait another couple of months to really see where the numbers are going with all of this. Moving on out of COVID and into lockdown browsers. There's a lot of chat about this. There's been a lot of questions. So why do students who bring their own devices to school need to install lockdown browser? What if you don't or are unable to, or the lockdown browser causes problems of privacy or other issues of the device? So the basic issue with the lockdown browsers is when we're sitting in class and you're using Schoology to do a test or a quiz, we need to make sure that you aren't using your computer in a way that you can have other tabs open and start looking up answers. That was a lot of the problems that people were reporting about being at home, and that kids were using alternate sources on assessments. So once we're in the classroom, if you're going to use the computer, which is a great tool for some of these assessments because it helps kids write more quickly or access the parts of the test that they need to. And then it goes through and able to grade and submit it easier, but also it opens up things like cheating. And so we want to make sure that kids aren't cheating. That's the long and short of it. The lockdown browser doesn't access any other parts of your computer. I know there are concerns about privacy, or are people going to start recording my webcam and see what I'm doing? No, first of all, we don't have that good of a lockdown browser. And through Schoology too. It's not necessarily through us, but it doesn't do anything else. Right? We're not capturing information. The only thing we're looking at is, when that quiz is going on, did you try to open up another tab to look up the answer? Did you try to access a file? That's what it'll tell us. But again, if you are having problems doing this, you're unable to do it, you don't want to do it, you can use a school loaner. That's not a problem. But again, you just have to make sure that you're ready to go. And, again, that computer may be, not as nice as your computer, but it'll be the one that you use because it will have a lockdown browser. And we will not allow you to take the test or quiz without a lockdown browser. And again, if you're doing just a regular paper and pencil test or quiz, yeah, you don't need the lockdown browser. But if you're doing it through the computer, you will. So again, I know people are kind of freaking out, thinking it's a little bit of Big Brother. It's not. We're not interested in that. It's really about stopping cheating. Why are there sometimes wide discrepancies between requirements of teachers in the same subject? Can there be more consistency? For example, and this was sort of a long one, so I've shortened it down here. They were talking about how participation is possibly used in PE, or the levels of homework in biology courses, and saying that these are like classes that all ninth graders take. So shouldn't it all be exactly the same? And the answer to that is no, it shouldn't be all exactly the same, because each class has slightly different makeups and personalities and abilities. So teachers do adjust things as they're going on. And even teachers have different styles and personalities that they can adjust and do things with. And so within that, collaborative group, or what we call course-alike teams, and we use the acronym CATS. Those CATS collaborate once a week to come up with all those sort of essential learnings, assessments, interventions, policies, procedures, things like grading processes. But they do have a professional prerogative to adjust the teaching or the lessons to fit the student's need or even their own abilities. So you will see some variation. The collaboration is not everybody will be on this page on this day doing this exact thing. Because again, it might be a class that needs to go a little bit faster or a little bit slower. And so things aren't always equal in that manner. So that's what the teachers are adjusting to. But this is a good question for you to try and ask the teacher, like, hey, why does it feel like my kid in biology has way more homework than his friend who has this teacher for biology? So you could ask the teacher. You could even ask the department leads, and those department leads are Kyle Bonvecchio for PE or Dara Elaine Levy for science. But specifically about PE, the question was, shouldn't PE be about participation? And actually, if you go to the student handbook and look under PE, they will tell you very specifically that 90% of their grading is based on participation. You don't have to be a superstar. So there is some of that in there. So they might be, and they also might be doing different things at different times, just depending on what part of the campus they're using or what unit they're in. They have certain limited equipment, so they can't have everybody swimming in the pool at one time. So they rotate through them. So they might look different that way too. In science, specifically biology, teachers get together and they have been working on all things like grading processes and that kind of stuff. And for homework, there is a policy that all the teachers follow. So they try to do 5 to 30 minutes of homework, and the homework grade the overall grade is only made up of a small percentage of homework, and they all use the same percentage. Now, if your kid is doing more than 30 minutes of homework a night, that would be a good reason to call the teacher and say, hey, my kid's doing 2 hours of homework in biology. What's going on? How can we help them? So that's usually a sign that either they're misreading what they're supposed to be doing, or they're really struggling and they need some support. So again, there can be some inconsistencies, what may look like inconsistencies, but those are usually done to try and deal with the particular students who are in the class. But if you have those questions, feel free to reach out to teachers or department leads. Those are great resources. This has also been a pretty big topic, but with the fires, with all the fires that are going on, at what point, due to poor air quality, will students be sent home? Will schools start being remote because of poor air quality? We do not have a mechanism for canceling school or limit. What we do is we limit or cancel outside activities or events. So school itself, when we've had really bad air days in the past, we limit the amount of time that kids are outside. We keep them inside because the HVAC systems are much better than the ones you have at home, and they are able to filter out those particulates and all that kind of stuff. And so we might, though, have people eat inside. We might have kids, cut down the passing periods. We might, cut down lunch, things like that to try and keep kids from going outside. We'll cancel practices or sporting events. We'll do all those kinds of things. But we definitely do not have something like snow days, but that's the conversation, like, does California need to start having, the equivalent to snow days when there's bad air? But typically poor air quality is a short-term thing. It might be a week or two, it could be a day. So we wouldn't necessarily be going remote for something like that. Now, if we were experiencing 6 months of bad air quality, that might be a whole other thing, but I think that would be a bigger disaster that we're dealing with. So anyway, we don't have the mechanisms for that. We would do more to limit or cancel certain events that are outside, but we wouldn't necessarily cancel school. So, again, I think this is still something that this is evolving, and we're gonna have to continue to work with it, because in my 22 years of education, really only the last 2 years have been, this has been an issue. And so but it may be an issue for the next 22 years. So we need to take a look for that. So along that line, how does HHS monitor air quality? If it's using airnow.gov, which we are, the closest sensor is in downtown South San Jose. Why not use Purple Air, which has a sensor right near Homestead? Kids should not have been outside last week when it was hot and smoky. Again, when they were outside, we did try to cancel certain things. But what we do is we did get some guidance from the county, from other experts, and the suggestion was that we use Air Now. And so this one is the EPA is behind it. There's a lot of big companies and government institutions that swear on this one. It does alter and is different than purple air. If you look at those numbers, they can vary significantly. But the idea is that the system and network that they have is much more accurate than the others, which may be a little bit more susceptible to local issues and things that are going on. So again, our district has decided to go with air now. But what we do is we do have site personnel and district personnel that are looking at that. And at a certain point, they make a determination about whether they should cancel events or games or whether they can allow those to go on. But if you're feeling like, hey, my kid really shouldn't be out there, then you know what? You should excuse your kid from those events or those outdoor activities. And there really shouldn't be an issue. If there is, let me know. But again, if your kid plays, let's say, tennis, and you're saying, nope, it's too hard for them to be out there, but the coach and the district is saying, no, the air quality is an acceptable level. You have the right to say, no, that's unhealthy for my kid. And so, if the coach penalizes you, you need to let us know and we will deal with that. But you do have that right. So know that it is something we monitor. It is something we take seriously. We have canceled events and things before. It has to be over a certain threshold though. And again, we're not using purple air. We are using air now. So along those lines, what happens if it starts to rain? Then we have all these kids outside. What are we going to do? Or in bad air days, you could say, again, we're going to bring you inside. We know right now the guideline is that you shouldn't be eating inside. We have to give somewhere, and that would be coming in and eating indoors somewhere. Your kid is welcome to eat outside if they wanted to when it's raining, because there are places that are covered. There are kids that will eat outside if it's hot or smoky, but we try to get everybody inside when it's dangerous air quality. But we have places like the cafeteria, the student center, the iHub, gyms, hallways, and we'll even up in some worst cases, we've opened up classrooms to let kids eat in there too. So again, we'd have to do so very cautiously though, especially if the variant is still running pretty heavily. What is the lost and found policy at Homestead High School if students lose things? So items anything that's found on our campus is going to be turned into the front office. Remember, you met Nancy Navarro, who was my guest star last week. It'll be turned into her. And so you should go seek her out as the first line of like, I lost my backpack, I lost my lunch bag, whatever it might be, they might have it. If the item does have some sort of identification, let's say it's a backpack and it's got their student ID in it, we're going to try and return it to them right then. If it's unidentifiable, we'll bring it to the office. And if it's something valuable, like we've gotten phones and computers and wallets, even though the wallet might not have any name in it, it might have money in it. So we stick those things in a safe space. It's a lockable space. They can't get to it. There has to be some ways of positively identifying what it is that you are missing. But anyway, Miss Navarro is the one you'd want to go see. There was a question about what construction is currently underway on our campus. There are 3 projects right now going underway. 2 of them are ours. One of them is the city's. But the A building modernization project, that's the one in the middle of our campus, that is heavy and big going on right now. It is scheduled and on schedule to end in May. Once that goes down, then the B building, or once that goes up, the B building goes down. So we are not without our construction projects around here. In the student lot and over by the field house and on the access road, you may have seen some fencing up around parking spaces. There's electrical vehicle charging spots that are going in there. And so that's scheduled to be done next week. So we're really glad to get that one done, because it'd be nice to get the parking spaces back. And again, the one that's not ours is the Homestead corridor improvements. Those are the ones you're seeing happening on Homestead, where you're seeing new striping and new crosswalks, new signaling, and all that kind of things going on. That's scheduled to be done in mid-September. So those are the 3 that are going on. And again, so 2 of them should be gone by end of September, and the one that will just carry on is that A building modernization. Again, a long one. I wanted to put the whole thing in here so I could kind of address it, but my son says the new check-in system during tutorial prevents students from visiting more than one class during tutorial. He's had multiple situations where he's needed to speak with more than one teacher within one tutorial period. Will the new system be improved to allow teachers to give a student pass to go to another classroom? So just want to be clear here. So we ask students to go into a class, they scan a QR code. That way we know where they are. And so we can, if we have to find a student during tutorial, we can quickly look at the spreadsheet and know where they are. Or if we're doing contact tracing, we can say, oh, that student was in this tutorial. We need to pull all these people as close contacts. And so the QR code itself doesn't prevent kids from going into other class. We've been preventing kids to going into other class. We want kids to stay in one class to kind of get the skills down, the muscle memory of doing tutorial, because they haven't done it in 2 years. A lot of kids do use tutorial to kind of, they go from one class to another and kind of waste time, and they aren't using it properly. So we are trying to limit it. But however, if there's a really legitimate reason why we need to go, then we can definitely, schedule that and do that. If you're having a hard time getting to one class, or another, because sometimes you might go into another class and, that teacher might be busy. So email them if you don't get a chance to talk to them during tutorial. But again, if there's a true need, that teacher can write a pass and they can go. But we just don't want hundreds of kids wandering around on campus, because that will not go. But these things will loosen up as we go. And again, there'll be more kids that have been out sick. There'll be more kids that are having multiple projects that are due. So moving from site to site is not going to be a problem. But we're just trying to tighten it up for a little bit to make sure that it's running smoothly right now. How many minutes after class has started is a child marked tardy? Technically, as soon as the bell rings. So the late bell, whichever the last bell, whatever it was, that right before the start of class, if you're not in the classroom, you will be marked tardy. Now, some teachers will say, okay, you were just coming in the door, that's okay, or you needed to be in your seat, or they'll give you a couple minutes. Really, though, as soon as the bell rings, if your kid's not in there, they can be marked tardy. And so you just might want to, again, double check with your student teacher about why when they're marking them, but it shouldn't be too far into the period. And again, there are times where we give students leeway, like we know sometimes construction can be difficult, or if there's really bad traffic out in the morning, we might give some kids some leeway. But do know that if you are more than 30 minutes late to a class, it's a different kind of tardy. It's called a truant tardy. And just so you know, no tardy can be excused. So even if it's a legitimate excuse, your car had a flat tire and it took you a few minutes to fix it and you got to school 10 minutes late, that we get it. But the state says we can't excuse tardy. So you're still tardy. It won't hurt you or harm you unless you're tardy every day to that class, and that might hurt you because you're missing out on some of the lessons, or you're just not getting there. There might be a discipline that comes up with that one. But again, tardies generally aren't as big an issue unless they're becoming disruptive, and they do disrupt your students' learning. So we want kids there on time. Is the weekly video message available in form of text for quick reading? And yes, these have been getting very long because you guys are sending lots of great questions. And what I'm going to do is I'll start making the PowerPoint available for viewing. So you might be able to scan through the PowerPoint if you're like, oh, I really want to know a little bit more about, tardiness. So I'm going to go and find what he's saying there. So we'll send the video and this particular PowerPoint along with it so that you can take a look. But when we don't write something separately, that would probably take us a little bit too much time to put together and do. But that was a great idea. Thank you, whoever came up with that one. How often are teachers expected to enter in student grades and performance information in a place where parents can view? During my child's years at HHS, we struggled with getting this information timely, making it extremely difficult for us to help our child manage his learning progress. So Schoology is the platform we use right now. It is a live platform. So if you talk about your years of student being here, so they may have been under School Loop and now under Schoology. Schoology is a live thing. We do ask teachers to keep it up to date. And so if something has been submitted in Schoology, you will see that it's been submitted, but it hasn't been graded. There's a way for you to tell that. So you can at least see, oh, my kid submitted something, but it hasn't been graded yet. But in grading, this is always a long debate and question about how long does it take to grade things. Well, it really does depend on the assignment. As an English teacher, it might have taken me a week or 2 weeks to do a class set of essays, whereas a quiz might take me a day. And so there are different reasons for things taking as long as they do or as short as they do, but we do ask teachers that they try and update things as quickly as possible. Don't hold on to things for long periods of time, because that can, unfairly move the grade, or not unfairly, but give you an uneven picture of what your student is seeing or doing. But formally, teachers are required every 6 months to have the most up-to-date grade, because that's when we do progress reports. And then we have one progress report, a second progress report after 12 weeks, and then final grades at the end of 18 weeks. So those are the official times where they need to have it. The rest of the time, really, we're just asking them to keep up on the grading. So your student can ask your teacher about more information, like, hey, I turned this in, when is it going to get graded? Or, can you give me some more information about how long it's going to take to get this graded? Again, grading is a hard thing because, you want to give proper feedback. Sometimes you want to just grade it real quickly and get it back to them. But again, this is a chance for your student to have a conversation with the teacher if they're thinking something's missing or they want to have a little more information about their grade. So hope that helps. But again, Schoology is the thing you should be checking. That will give you the most up-to-date grade, the most up-to-date place to look for it. Lunch lines too long, and this is a couple of these, so I kind of just shortened it here at the end. So lunch lines are too long, you're running out of food, there's no time to go to the bathroom, you need to open more registers. This one has come up every week, and I'm not sure why this keeps coming up, because it's not 100% true what's stated right there. So yes, our lines are long. I'm not going to lie, because we are offering free lunch. We are serving between 500 and 800 students per brunch and lunch. That's a lot of kids. So 1,000 to 1,600 kids per day. In those times, the 500, 800 kids are taking about 15 to 20 minutes to serve them. That is pretty darn quick. If you couldn't get that many served at McDonald's or Burger King or something like that, I guarantee it. Because of that, though, brunch is impacted. If it takes 15 minutes, brunch is 15 minutes long. So yeah, I don't know, other than making brunch a little bit longer, but again, we can't do that because that changes the whole day. And we aren't the only school that goes by the schedule. But brunch is meant to be a short thing. And so again, maybe if you're not able to, if you're in line the whole time, you don't like that, can bring your own snack. And that way you can talk with friends and go to the restroom. At lunch, though, this does leave you with about 30 minutes to eat if we clear you out in 15 to 20 minutes. So I don't know why there should be a reason that they can't eat or that they can't go to the restroom. Now, kids are human and they wait to the last possible minute. So that might be also true, that they're talking and doing their thing, and then all of a sudden they run over and the lunch line is empty, but some of the items that they've been selling are out, and so they may not get the item that they want. That might be where there wasn't anything I wanted to eat kind of thing. But we have not been running out of food. We might run out of an item or two, but we always have something that we're going to be able to feed the kids with. So if they're saying they're not getting food, that's not true. If they're saying they didn't have time to go to the bathroom, that may be true during brunch, but that's not true during lunch. Opening more registers, we really don't have the space for that. Again, that we don't have the extra registers. It's not like Lucky's where there's 7 or 8 or 10 or 15 stalls there. We have 3. We're using all 3, and we do have an outside cart that we're using. So we would have to hire more people. We'd have to buy more equipment. We'd have to somehow reconfigure things, which wouldn't be cheap and easy and quick. So again, we're trying the best we can. I think we're doing a pretty darn good job. Not perfect, but again, I think the ladies are doing a great job in there. And I know it may not be ideal, but again, if you don't like the length of the lines, or you think it's taking too much time, or you don't like the quality of the food or the type of the food, you are welcome to bring your own lunch, and your kid is welcome to go off campus and get food. So there are those options. So that might be something you want to consider. Again, there was another question about bathroom passes where they're saying they didn't like the bathroom passes, and I get that. But so what about kids who have medical issues or other things that might be causing them to need to go to the bathroom? Well, if your student has a medical issue, they're going to be accepted from that bathroom pass thing. So again, and I don't want to say this is not a lot of our teachers that are doing it. There's a handful of our teachers that do this. So again, this shouldn't be a huge problem across campus. But if that student is in a class where a teacher requires bathroom passes, again, a medical note will excuse all that and they won't have to worry about it. And again, if let's say they use their 3 or 5 bathroom passes, we don't stop them from going to the bathroom after that. It's just simply that they don't earn some sort of award or reward for not using them or not leaving classes. So again, it's to motivate the kids to stay in class rather than go out of class. And again, I know it's connected back to this other thing, like if you're not able to go to the bathroom during brunch, then maybe you want to go to the bathroom during there. We get that, but that's going to be one of those choices you're going to have to make. Kids don't lose points. Kids don't, they don't get graded down because of this. So, and we're not going to stop them from going to the bathroom. So it is meant to be sort of a stopgap, though, for kids leaving class. Why aren't teachers required to reply to parent emails? I've emailed one of my child's teachers multiple times and haven't gotten a response. Well, we do have a requirement, and I've said this one multiple times last year and other times, but everybody should respond within 24 to 48 hours. Now, again, if you're sending that email tonight at 8 o'clock at night on a Friday night and it's a 3-day weekend, yeah, it's realistic that that teacher's not going to respond until Tuesday. It is a weekend. They do not have to respond over that. So during the weekday, 24 to 48 hours. So sometimes what we've noticed is that parents might misspell a word, or they might mess up the fuhsd.org part. So double check that you're actually sending it to the right place. And one of the ways to do that is if you send the email the first time and you don't get anything back within 24 to 48 hours, again, after the 48 hours, what I would say is you can CC me or you can CC another administrator and just say, hey, I tried sending you, I haven't heard from you. It's been a couple of days. That way I can double check that, A, they did get the email, and then I can follow up with them as well, saying, hey, what's going on? Let's figure out how to help this parent. So again, 24 to 48 hours, they should be doing that. So if you haven't, please let me know, and we'll try and take care of that for you. So my apologies if they're not responding, because they should be. That's the end of the questions. I know it's been a long one. Important dates, though. So some of these are repeats from last time, but again, just so you know, there is a college info night for seniors. This is for parents only. That is tonight, Friday the 3rd. And there's also the Battle of the Bell football game. This is against our big rivals. So Homestead takes on Fremont. So hopefully you get a chance to see our kids in action. It's usually a lot of fun. The Labor Day holiday is this weekend, so it is a 3-day weekend. Then when we come back, we have our virtual back to school night. So again, what will be happening is teachers will be recording a video that we're going to post to Schoology, and you'll be able to watch that at your leisure whenever you need to, but we'll be doing a live Zoom kickoff at 5 o'clock. That is really just kind of for fun, and it's going to be the administrative team. Teachers are not involved in that part, but we'll be introducing the administrative team, going over some announcements, going over how a few things work, showing you some information from our parent groups. So again, you don't have to attend the live Zoom if you don't want to either. You can simply go to your teachers or your kids' teachers' Schoology pages and get the videos and start watching them after 5 o'clock on that particular night. There is an evening club fair coming up on the 17th. Again, for those who you want your kids to get involved in, that's a good night to go check some things out. And as we talked about, the first 6-week grading period is coming up on the 24th. So we'll be getting progress reports after that. Again, if you want to know what's happening in your students' class before then, check out Schoology. We do have the Fremont Union High School District Field Expo show coming up on the 2nd. That's usually a really fun event. Again, hopefully it still is able to go on, but right now it's still scheduled to go on. And the week of 10/11 is homecoming. It's a lot of fun. We'll talk about homecoming in a couple of weeks, to sort of the things that you can expect your kids to participate in. And so it's a lot of fun. But thank you, everyone, for sticking around this long and for sending in on all the great answers. Continue to do so. And I will try to answer all the questions that I can. Everyone have a great and restful 3-day weekend, and we'll see you next week. Take care.